Have you ever had an LSD experience where you realized that everything is God, that you are God, perceptions are God, and all other beings are simply God, walking around either knowing they're God or temporarily not realizing it, pretending that they're not God? Have you ever had this experience? If you have, then this video is directly made for you. If you've had this experience, you've more than likely come down from that experience. You've more than likely realized that, oh, this was a state that came from LSD or mushrooms or DMT, and now I'm this separate self again walking around, and somehow I've lost the experience of God. I want to share an analogy with you. Your realization of God was not your experience. Your realization of God had nothing to do with experience. It had nothing to do with the content that you were experiencing. So from your point of view, you had the trip, you realized God, you seen that everything is God, then you came down from experience. Now tell me, how can you really come down from knowing that you are fundamentally all of existence? How can you come down from the knowing that you are the source of reality? You never come down from that knowing. What you've done is mistaken God for the dancers. The experience comes through and you experience your experience, the content of your experience, how your body feels, how the world looks, how you perceive, the way you see, everything that could be experienced as an object is the dancers in this analogy. And everything that you know, which is only one thing that you know, which is God, is God. Do you see the difference? Seeing the difference is fundamental in the true unconditional, not coming down from that experience. Seeing the significance in the difference is that which will create true unconditional awakening. And what we find is that we mistake God for the dancers. And we think that the experience I was having on the relative level was God. And now I'm not experiencing that which I was experiencing in the trip. I have come down from, therefore, I have completely mistaken what I am again, and now I'm back to being an ego. You've made a fundamental mistake. The real mistake was that you did not know how to recognize God truly, because you mistook God for the dancers. Now tell me, what do you think would happen if you took your attention away from God? God would seem to disappear. So you've taken your attention away from the truth, you've put it onto the dancers, enjoyed the parade, and you've completely forgotten about God. You've completely taken your attention away. You've gone back into experience again. So rightly so, you came down from that experience. You completely mistook what the experience was. So this is why you have this experience, you come back down, you feel like you have to do X, Y, and Z to get back there. You've realized God. Cut it out. Stop pretending. You know your true nature. Stop fucking around now. You don't have to keep taking LSD. You don't have to keep doing these practices. What's necessary now is to give yourself some context. My path began through LSD, but really it began through suffering and having some insight as to someone telling me that LSD would change my life. What happened with me is that LSD was the key gateway, the key access for me to the realization of God. And I realized, there's a story, I can link it somewhere, but there was one once and for all experience where I kind of had this epiphany that you cannot really come down from this. And what I've done is mistaken the experience, and it's a long story, I won't share it here. But then I knew it was my journey to provide context for this experience. For example, it's as if we've been taken to the top of the mountain, but we have no idea how we got there. And the problem with not knowing how we got there brings the shed of doubt that brings us right the way back down to the bottom. So what we do in the path that I share, the path that I've learned, is really vigorously exploring experience. And I've worked with people who've taken LSD, and this seems to have a much more direct and profound, it seems to just bypass a lot more, because people who've taken LSD, they have already gone through a very vigorous, somewhat terrifying, traumatizing ego death. And the things that I share, if you see in my community and in my meditations, these are basically ego deaths. I'm taking people through an ego death very gently without them even noticing, you see? And I learned this from my teacher, Rupert, and he does this in such a fantastic way that there's really no fear, no anxiety. And if there is, you're with someone grounded who can help you navigate that experience. So this path is basically about integrating your direct access of the truth into the mind, into the body, and out into the world. And you have to do that by providing this context. And the context is realizing experientially all of your experience is already God. And you do this by exploring, well, what is your experience fundamentally made of? What does it consist of? What is the truth of it? And this truth that we get interested in takes us away from states of mind, consciousness. We're trying to get used to now this ordinary state that we seem to come back into every time we come back down. You see? This is now the new exploration. We're exploring the normality that we seem to come back into. And the truth is in the normality. You see? It's not in this exotic state of mind. Think about it. The truth is obviously not a state of mind. And it obviously is not a state of consciousness. You cannot have states of consciousness. Consciousness is not, it's like the sun. You can't have a state of the sun. The sun is light, period. You don't have states of that. Likewise, the only state of mind that you can have is a state that comes and a state that goes. You and the truth, God, is obviously not a state that comes and a state that goes. So it must be the place you're already in. So why not get used to that? Why not understand more of that? Instead of taking yourself to a new state of mind, get used to the state of mind you're already in. You see? I show people how to do this every single week in my free community, and I host meditations, like I said, completely for free. So if this is something you're interested in, if you want to ground this experience deeper, even more deeply, then I would suggest joining. And I can help you personally one-to-one in the group calls. So other than that, thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Take care.